Caitlyn Jenner, The Secrets of My Life, a Diane Sawyer special.
Good evening. It was almost exactly 2 years ago this week that a famous American had a stunning announcement. Olympian Bruce Jenner said that inside there had always been a woman in brain and soul. And it sent a lot of us hurtling into a maze of questions about what is gender, what is sexuality. At that time, Jenner and I agreed to meet again to see if the personal journey ahead would be what she imagined. Since then, there's been a rumor she's so unhappy she wants to transition back. And of course, all that seismic political change in a polarized nation. So a note now before we begin. When Caitlyn Jenner's book, The Secrets of My Life, refers to Bruce, it uses the pronoun he, and so will we. As we head off to California to check in again. Coming up, a backyard barbecue, a controversy, and a lot of parents taking sides.
That's what I was told last year, that the kids need to get over it, that they need to get comfortable,
I didn't say get over it.
That's their right also.
In walks Caitlyn Jenner.
Nice to meet you, Caitlyn.
What happens here, and what happens when a new president enters the fray? Caitlyn Jenner has agreed to show up at a backyard barbecue. We've gathered together people on all sides of a national controversy, whether transgender students should get to choose their bathroom and locker rooms. Some of these parents say yes. Others say they have deep concerns about that and feel they don't often get to express their views.
You want me to tell my story?
Yeah, do.
Okay.
This is Holly, who tells the group about the day her son, a ninth grade student, came home from school after someone was in the locker room.
The first thing he said was, "Mom, I've got bad news."
Bad news?
He said she's always been a girl. She's never been a boy. And now all of a sudden she comes back for the second semester and says she's a boy, and she's using the boys' locker room.
Holly is a devout Mormon.
There are certain things that the religious community holds dear, and modesty and privacy, that's one of those things. They are never, ever going to be okay with their daughter in an open locker room changing in that locker room. They're never going to be okay with that.
Beth agrees it's about modesty. She's a Christian who says that religious people often feel unfairly judged.
They are haters and bigots.
Teresa and her husband Bo say it's not just the parents. Teresa coaches girls' high school athletic teams.
One of my juniors said, "Coach, I don't know if I could handle it. I don't know if I could handle it."
There's always this fear of something new, something unknown.
Carlos says this sounds familiar.
And my white college basketball team, they didn't want to dress with me. I would go and dress somewhere else.
But Corinne thinks this is different.
You can't go into a locker room one day and say, you know, I'm going to be African American today and tomorrow I'm not.
If history has taught us anything, is that separate is never equal. And that's what's scary to me.
Jenny and others here think that separating out transgender kids is just unkind.
I have a son and a daughter. My daughter's seen my son naked a lot of times. She's not traumatized. Shouldn't be a threatening thing.
That's what I was told last year, that the kids need to get over it, that they need to get comfortable.
I didn't say get over it.
And then the most famous transgender person in the world arrives.
Hi, Caitlyn. Nice to see you.
We had told the group she might come.
You were one of my heroes growing up. You and I are both Republicans, by the way. That's a great thing, and we're both men of faith. And they're women of faith. Excuse me. That's another issue sometimes.
It's okay. Pronouns. I don't get all upset about that, but it's fine. It's fine. I get it. I get it. Let me ask you this question, because you are a person of faith. From your standpoint, as far as faith, how do you see this issue?
I think that, you know, Pope Francis said it best, who are we to judge?
Caitlyn invites the parents to ask her anything.
Transgenders are born transgenders, or they develop as transgenders some point in life. I just wonder your thoughts on that.
Everything I have seen, you're born this way.
And then she surprises the group by saying something about which people have attacked her the most harshly.
Out of all of the negative mail I got, especially at the beginning, was from people of faith.
That is horrible, especially coming from people who profess to believe in God.
Holly says that has to change, and notes when she went public asking for separate stalls for kids in locker rooms.
I also was a recipient of unspeakable hate mail and death threats. It was just absolutely horrible. I think that we need to come to a point where we say, we're not going to agree on everything, but for heaven's sakes, quit bullying.
And then there is someone who weighs in saying it's possible to find common ground across this national divide. He's Dr. David Van Osdal, superintendent of the Arcadia Public Schools in California. And he says the real issue is making privacy available for all kids. And that means practical solutions.
The second we were able to get all the attorneys out of the room and remind ourselves what we do best.
His schools have nearly 10,000 students. A few years ago, after parents and teachers decided to talk together, the school now has some gender-neutral bathrooms, which he says are freely used by all kids. And across the country, in the locker rooms, some schools use inexpensive curtains for those who are transgender and those who are not.
We're going on 6 years, multiple students that are managing themselves with our behind-the-scenes support without impacting any students. It's been very successful.
And do you have any parents objecting?
No, we don't.
And Van Osdal says the students have responded with friendship for their transgender classmates.
Which should tell us adults something, that they care more about what's in the heart than the anatomy.
From this backyard, a lesson in respect for a contentious and polarized nation. Back at our barbecue, it is time for Caitlyn to say goodbye.
I want to thank everybody.
Thank you so much.
But when I tell the group I'm heading off to interview parents of transgender kids, some of them decide to come with me to the nearby coffee shop.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Dr. Van Osdal is greeted by a woman who says her transgender son was in one of his schools and thanks him for his open heart. We start by hearing family stories. Jody told about her little girl who knew something was not right at the age of 3.
People think at 3 years old that's just not possible.
I know, but my kid at 3 said, everyone thinks I'm a girl and I'm not. And then I said, however you feel is fine. And then Penelope said, no, I don't feel like a boy, Mama. I am a boy. That's as clear as it gets.
Parents Danielle and Stevens say, like a lot of people, they were rocked when their 9-year-old boy started asking about a sex change.
And I remember walking out and going into our bedroom and going, oh my God. Oh my goodness.
Marcia confides she used to believe that being transgender was a choice.
What a day.
Until her daughter said she was a boy and fell into a terrible depression at not being understood. Marcia says, think of these kids just trying to use a bathroom.
Somebody called security on him. And so they took him out and they put those twist ties on, those zip ties on him until he could prove that was the restroom that he was supposed to go into.
I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable. I don't want you to be uncomfortable, but I don't want my baby to kill herself.
And Gina says, for every parent, nothing is more compelling than your anguished child
suicidal, extremely depressed, was hurting himself.
Finally, finding happiness.
When he learned about being transgender, it was like this light went off in him. That's what he was.
She's happy now?
Everybody says it.
For the first year in about 3 or 4 years, she wanted to have a big birthday party.
He is a karate champion. He goes to karate tournaments twice a year and wins. He loves math. He's probably the giddiest kid in the family. He talks the most.
One parent from our barbecue asks how she can help.
What can our children do to be more supportive of your children in the school scene?
I think, that's the greatest place to start, is meet them. Meet the people who aren't like you and get to know them as people, as human beings.
I so appreciate all the people who are here that want to hear these stories, because as a mother, this is the kind of hope that I get. That's what bridges this gap.
You have a choice every day to operate from fear, and that sends you one direction, or to operate from possibility and hope and opportunity, and that sends you on another path.